get to the back, ayy. Got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when the lane moving fast, ayy. Let them all cross. If they hate, then let them hate and make a bigger boss, ayy.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines. But most importantly, you guys provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. This is your first time tuning in. Welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I do say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals, because at the end of the day, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve, so you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Happy Tuesday, everybody. I got a very special guest for you guys. We're going to be talking on the fulfillment side today, and it's not a topic that we've gone very in-depth upon, so I'm really looking forward to that. But before we bring our guests up, you guys, you know what it is. It is This Week in Freight, powered by my friends over at DAT. Again, you guys, this is a 3 times a week lane analysis. It's 100% viewer submitted. So if you want your lane broken down on the show, email my team, podcast@thefreightcoach.com. Today, we have reefer El Paso, Texas to Fresno, California. And lo and behold, another lane that stabilized out there. And we'll get into that there in a second. But every time I'm assessing a lane, you guys, the first thing I look at is miles. To me, miles are extremely important. Days of the week that it ships out matters in this situation, transit time, everything else. And, you know, we want to set that expectation about how long it's going to take for some of these full truckloads to get across there, right? So it's, again, my general rule of thumb is 500 miles a day out there. So this is a great Monday through Wednesday lane. It might be a good Friday to Monday as well, just due to the fact that there's such a high volume of carriers who want to get back into the Central Valley. But Thursday to Monday is going to be rough, especially on a reefer. That's going to be one of those times where you might see a higher price point that's out there. But like I was saying, you guys, it's stabilized, this lane in particular. I think more and more people are now coming out and admitting that the market has stabilized from a pricing perspective out there. We've been talking about this on the show for about the past month now. And, you know, again, my general rule of thumb, you guys, is I look at a 90-day data pull on this. And I look at the past 90 days and I see what is the fluctuation that comes along with it. And then my other parameter is I use that $200 variance, right? So if a rate for 90 days stays between, say, $1,800 and $2,000, that's a stabilization point out there. And I know that the volatility, if you are experiencing that at all, has seemingly dissipated. But, you know, most importantly, you guys, we want to look at this on a 12-month cycle here. So what you're seeing is you're going to start to see this lane based on what you're, based on last year, it's probably going to slow down a little bit. Rates might go down a little bit here, and then they start to peak up between September, October, and then through Christmas. Why is that? You hit a fall produce season out of the Central Valley, and then you go right into the holiday push out there. So you might see an increase in rates a little bit later this year, but for the most part, I don't know how much this lane is going to change moving forward. I think the big indicator on why rates were volatile earlier this year was the absolute influx in fuel pricing that you've seen out there. And then, like with everything, it goes up, it stabilizes, rates stabilize. And this lane in particular, I look at it, you know, like the El Paso market, it's kind of a secret honeypot out there, because again, there is so much cross-border freight that comes into El Paso from there. And then again, getting trucks to go back into California is never going to be a problem. There's always ample capacity, and especially into the Central Valley, right? Like Sacramento, NorCal, and SoCal get all the attention out there, but that Central Valley, for those of you who aren't aware, is a hot spot for outbound freight. There is a lot of freight that moves out of there, especially for refrigerated trailers. So this lane in particular, I think it's very much stable. I think it's probably going to remain that way. It might dip a little bit here through August, but it's going to increase around Labor Day, and then it'll probably stay elevated through the holidays out there. So again, you guys, that is This Week in Freight, powered by my friends over at DAT. This is El Paso, Texas, going into Fresno, California for a reefer. And again, if you want your lane broken down on the show, email my team, podcast@thefreightcoach.com, and we will break it down here on there. But now Let's get into it, you guys. Fulfillment. I'm really looking forward to speaking to this individual today. And with that being said, I want to welcome Mr. Leo Rodriguez on the show this morning. Leo, thank you so much for taking the time to join me this morning.
Chris, it's awesome. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Now, I'm looking forward to it, right? Because like I was saying, I very few people on like the warehousing side of the industry have been like even willing to come on the show. So when I had people, how'd you guys reach out? And I'm like, dude, let's talk about it and break it down. So since this is your first time on the show, Leo, I always like to welcome my guests like this. How'd you get your start in freight? Like what brought you into transportation?
Yeah, it was a family business. I actually came in 17 years ago. The business has been around since 1992. It's funny enough because it wasn't a true 3PL. The business started actually in freight logistics, local freight logistics, doing LTL shipments. Gosh, that's 30 plus years ago in the Southern California, primarily Los Angeles, Ventura, San Diego County. And it was actually my mother who started it, who learned from her father back on the East Coast in the New Jersey area, doing some reefer freight, but just kind of picked up on things when she was, there was a opportunity where, she saw that, hey, you know what, there's a truck available, a used truck. I'm going to try this out. I kind of knew a little bit of the ins and outs from, her upbringing and watching the family business over there. But started, got one truck, got two trucks, got three trucks. Picking up, it was really just from B2B. It's from, supplier to the business, or B2B, and that's kind of where it started. Who would have then that translated into these businesses. Hey, I can't deliver to point B yet. I need some warehousing. I have to hold on to it. And then enough of those clients, had that demand and put her in a position to get a small warehouse. Then it turned into, hey, we need some value-added services. We need some kitting stuff. Well, I don't really know how to do kitting. I don't understand all the compliances there and the workflows, but let's give this a shot. Yeah, fast forward 30 plus years, and from e-commerce, retail, wholesale distribution, a bunch of other logistics services, complete integrations. Here we are. Yeah.
No, I love that. I love how and I think that's one thing that when people go out and start a business or try it, try their first idea when they go out there, they aren't maybe open to the fact that like, hey, just because you want to do this today, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, like there is going to be a change in demand out there. And I personally think, I don't ever want to say like mega corporations are going to like go away or anything like that, because they're heavily financed at this point. But like I look at it, we're like those niche operations, I think are going to have a growing demand. People are almost going to want that subject matter expert to continue to evolve. And it's like I look at out there in the CPG space, for example, how many CPG brands are started out of somebody's garage, and then they inevitably fall into that wall of like, how do I get a national footprint out there? Because again, customers want their product yesterday. Amazon, 3-hour shipping across the country, right? So it's like building up that footprint out there is such a stepping stone for so many CPG brands. So what are some of those things that you guys in particular already have the infrastructure built where it's like, if I had a sparkling water brand, I could come into you, Leo. I started in Southern California, be like, I need to build out my supply chain.
Yeah, you nailed some great points there. And one of the things that sticks out is, you can go to these massive, supply chain companies or, whether they're doing freight, distribution, some e-com, but a lot of these brands, as they're scaling in the earlier stages, even probably larger brands as well, that white glove service, right? That handling, they want to have visibility. Everyone talks about, having visible data. Okay, great. But is it actionable? And is it actionable with collaboration with the experts that deal with this day in and day out? Because they think that there's options there, and they like, this might be the best option, But man, what a tool it is to have someone that has a bunch of experience and already has gone through the trials and errors, the burn to learns, right? To really guide that way on step, and then not having to use their own resources to go ahead and always figure that out. You know, to circle back there, you know, it's a lot of it really, I say this quite a bit here. It's foundational work. The amount of specifically on the onboarding side of it, right? It's really trying to bring to life the goals, because there might be, you know, we want to jump into you know, this channel and this channel and this channel. This is my inventory, and there's a lot of excitement, and everything goes, obviously nowadays everything's extremely fast paced, but breaking it down on, you know, the specifications, even when they're at the research and development point of it, collaborating, bringing in the 3PL early on is vital, right? So and we can talk about that for hours, right? But, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you think that like what are some of those things that an emerging CPG brand should, like, what are a couple of key data points or key strategies that you guys have seemingly found success in implementing with them early on, that it was almost like an eye-opening experience, right? Because again, most people start off out of their garage, local farmers market, whatever that looks like, trying to get their brand recognition. Now, yeah, you can go on TikTok Shop and other things right now and get it out there. But when you go from a couple of orders a month to we need 1,000 a day shipped out, that's a big jump. What are some of those learning points that you guys have found to where it's like, if I came to you with my sparkling water brand, where it's, you know, Leo's going to sit me down and be like, all right, Chris, we need to get this accomplished first. Then here's step one, here's step two.
Yeah, gosh, it's a loaded question, but let's start with some basics there. It seems like basics, but maybe is overlooked, as if the brand's doing themselves, they're just doing okay, let me get this configured just to get it shipped and out the door. But there's a big part of that is maybe you didn't optimize that correctly. You didn't know to optimize. You didn't have maybe you know, the right technology, the transportation management system that has all the bells and whistles to help not only transit times, costs, tracking visibility, the big part of it is being able to rate shop. And even before that, like I mentioned earlier, you know, systems configurations and item profile setups within these systems. So whether it's in the warehouse management system, whether it's in the warehouse execution system, but they all need to talk to each other and to the transportation management system. Very, like, for example, you know, we have some of, you know, brands that are already in a 3PL that are coming over to us that already have, say, they have their e-commerce on, you know, Shopify, right? Or order management system that they have Shopify plugged into, and then that's integrated into our warehouse management system. We actually do, on the onboarding, we take a step further and jump into, hey, let's do a session. We do a, you know, temporary admin access and look on the back end of all their settings, and we see that there's holes all over. Some simple tweaks on, you know, on, hey, you're showing your item setups are, you're off a couple inches here, right? You're doing you're doing a setting to where it's interfering with our transportation management system, right? Your pricing is off, right? It's completely, like, it's showing something that, you know, you want to sell it at this price point, or sorry, you want to offer this specific service rate for you know, whatever it might be, free shipping, but what's coming in, you think it's going to be $10. It's really, like, actually it's $12, but we can make an adjustment, make some changes here. We're going to make some changes on your packaging because you had too much fluff in your packaging. You had 2 inches more in your width. That now puts you in, it opens up a whole nother portfolio of cares and services. If you're saying, like, you're doing free shipping, you want to get the, you know, 2 to 6 days. And, you know, it's, you know, nothing's really free, right? So it's, if someone's taking that, you know, it's eating out in some margin, but that's just an example. It's just going back in and dissecting the back ends of the shopping carts or their setups, and you know, having a full review before obviously going live, right? It's not just letting them handle it and that, okay, let's just do the connections. Yeah, that's simple, right? The API connections or it's not always simple, but most of them are, right? You get where I'm going with it, right? But it's that, you know, having them again review further with you and diving into their back ends, which is it's helpful all the way around, and also for us to better understand what they're trying to accomplish.
How do you guys balance direct to consumer and then like wholesale or retail customers out there, right? When it's like some of these brands, like you brought up the Shopify account that, somebody's going to go on there. They might use Amazon for one unit, but they also might sell their product into, like a Target or a Costco and stuff like that. So how are you managing that? And, maybe this is more of like an internal question from like a workflow perspective inside of your warehouse.
Yeah, it's a great question there. It's, these multi-channel brands, companies, it's probably one of the most important things within the setup of a 3PL is what's going to be the pathway. First is identifying where's the origin data, the order source coming from, right? Are they using an ERP system? Are they using an order management system? Some companies still do direct one-on-one integrations. It's harder to scale that way. You want to have like a central virtual headquarters that is able to decipher and map and point to the correct warehouses. And how again is during the onboarding, the full setup. Sometimes they'll take 4 to 6 weeks at times just to make sure the connectivity is correct. But really everything in our operations flows through different tags within our warehouse management system. So because some clients will like it to where they want to keep, and we have the flexibility of both. We can set up separate silos. We can have like an e-commerce silo where all their marketplaces, e-commerce channels flow through an inventory that's allocating to specific to allocating the SKUs only for e-com, and then a separate profile where and that they can toggle in between for like their retail. Because it could be a big challenge because you can have these retailers. So like for your example, right, they're selling on Shopify, Walmart, Marketplace.com, Amazon, FBM, and you're just getting direct to consumer orders flowing through there every day and allocating and from a inventory position and processing, shipped, and then everything's time stamped right there, right? So tracking needs to update, automated, go back into systems, and that needs to flow automatic, hands off, right? Everything is happening. With automation there. Now, the retail game still, like you might have POs that are coming in and, while you're offering SKU A on e-com, there's someone's ordering 1 to 2 pieces there. Well, Target's also asking for SKU A, but they're ordering, 2,000, 3,000, 9,000, 10,000 units. You got to be careful on, not getting lost on what's happening within your inventory. Like I was mentioning, ERPs and order management systems can help you achieve that, right? But we do have it to where, and those orders also could be Target PO comes in today for a processing and ship date 2 months down the road. So how are you doing your, making sure you're managing that inventory for maybe you don't have any, maybe it's over allocated. And a lot of time we're seeing right now in the supply chain, it's some of it's a good problem to have, but those POs are coming in and they don't have enough inventory at this point. They're waiting for it coming in from overseas. But again, it needs to be able to sit there and there needs to be alerts, visibility within your systems to talk back to their system to like, hey, this is now you're getting triggers. You're at 2 weeks, 1 week. We're having weekly meetings there with the team just to make sure, hey, this is because as soon as that you're falling within those ship dates or specifically routing dates within these big box retailers, right? They're usually a lot of them are connected via EDI. You better take action between those dates, or you're going to be assessed some big chargebacks. So there's a lot of moving parts, and again, we can dive into all the different lanes within that. But it's again having the this back-end systems to be able to connect and talk to each other, but also be able to dissect it and plan forward is between the e-com and retailers. It could be complex, but it's obviously doable, right? So.
Yeah, you brought up chargebacks there, and that brings up such like an early part of my career in going into a lot of those big box distribution centers that are out there. And again, I look at some of these brands that are up and coming, and or maybe they just got the large retail partner that they've been working for, and Now they had no idea about improper labeling, return, like declined shipments, chargebacks, all of that stuff, must arrive by dates being missed. And then, again, like it's insane. Like, and this is why I tell people when they're starting out, like when you're playing at that level of transportation, like you have to have systems and processes in place because, man, I remember there was one specific distribution center in Miami, Florida that like literally rejected 1 out of every 5 shipments for pallets that would like be slightly tilted and stuff. Like, so when you go into some of those big box distribution centers, your stuff has to be packaged like within a certain parameters. Has technology helped in that regard at all, Leo, or is it still kind of dealing with a lot of those hurdles?
Yeah, see on both ends, obviously with applications within AI can help you, you could have it scrub or put the information in there and see, point out exceptions that you might not be able to visibly see. That's definitely very helpful. But still, look, even with these, the big retailers, I feel like in some like they've upgraded some parts of their systems, like their routing systems. Some of them are still archaic, right? They're just, it's not easy just to uproot, and they probably will soon enough. I'm sure, next couple of years, but you still have to work within those systems, right? And kind of going back into what you're mentioning, the specs or things that can, that you just have to have aligned throughout the whole process. Like we have it, some examples there, there's like you meant, like there's a brand that tried for so long, like trying to get into Walmart, right? They're all excited, they get in there and then they realize, oh man, I brought in this inventory and I don't have the right, G10 marking, labeling, right? It's in the wrong position. The barcode is too small. Now there's so many times it depends on when they come to us too, right? If they're already, before the manufacturing stage, we can, we help them, it's almost like a cheat sheet for them. Yeah. Like, hey, these are your, your compliance guidelines at the fact. If not, we're going to have to, do value-added services here to make it compliant before we process that PO for that retailer. Another one is, it's a big one, right? It's sometimes the 3PL could be blind into what did the brand or the company do on the front end of their supplier setups, because the SKUs and setups of the item numbers that they've set up with that retailer, they might have gotten specs, for example, from China that might not be accurate in volume. If they set up a box that was saying 10 by 10 by 10, right? But truly it's a 8 by 8 by 8 when you physically get it. Well, we get the inventory, we're actually, capturing through the dimensions. There's an 8 by 8 by 8 box in volume. When we go and route, they're showing a profile of and now I'm tying it into that being, it's a collect program, right? So they're doing freight collect. That means the carrier, they're under the carrier ecosystem. The retailer ecosystem for the freight logistics. So you're routing in the portals, then you get a load number, then here comes the Walmart truck or the Target, right? Or whoever they use as a third party. And then you see 2 months like, wait, we routed this and we cubed it out correctly. But then you see these reports, these chargebacks reports. Sometimes you don't see those for months later, that just, hey, you're utilizing, this is not part of the agreement and contract because you're utilizing, X amount of cube versus this, right? And then you look back, you're like, I see what's going on here. It's just something as simple as getting it, corrected on the front end, and when on the supplier end of it, that doesn't match up what physically came in, is creating a complex issue in terms of costs and chargebacks that, or deductions. There's different ways, these violations happen, but something that just can easily be fixed once we physically get it in and like, hey, we ping them, use our item profiles to then marry back into the supplier retailer setup. So pretty important, so anyone that's doing the retail, collect programs, so these like that, and you're using 3PL, just do another review, set up, get those item profiles, make sure that matches up, because we've seen more than not, those are not always accurate.
Yeah, I was going to say, and then that kind of like leads me into my next question about like managing returns, reverse logistics and stuff. So it's like, how do you guys handle that and getting that back in? Or is that, because again, like I learned in the food space as well, doing that is sometimes it's like, you got to get a certificate of disposal. Like it doesn't like it actually is a bigger financial strain to try and bring it back into the warehouse or like donate it, whatever. So it's like, how are you guys managing that? And then with that complex onboarding process that you bring to the table with some of these brands, where it's like, are you guys able to minimize that on the back end because you guys have a very thorough onboarding of like, hey, your barcode is too small or this is too small? So is that kind of all tied in?
There's it's a topic of conversation every week on trying to manage, the returns, reverse logistics and returns processing, because there's so many different angles that you have to look at. It's first off commodity, right? What's the product? Are there trackables on that product? Is there, could this be a product coming in that has an EXP date or a lot number? Now you're adding in, inspection protocols, QC protocols, categorizing it, pass or fail, right? You're also at the mercy on, did the customer or the business send it back to you with any type of, they'll send it back to you. It might be an Amazon FBM order that got them, they're sending it to you in a Walmart box or a shoe box, right? And, didn't put the RA number, RMA or any, so sometimes it's a search and rescue. You have to profile within our systems. It's still overall, I'm going to say like, hey, River Plate's the greatest here. We're awesome, but we still got a lot of work there. We do a good job on our dime a lot of times, right? Just to make it happen for the client. And we do a good job in terms of, beforehand. Again, we treat it as, this is client by client. It's exception ruling there. It's not the greatest. There's a lot more technology now out there to help you source it, organize it, but still, there's still, we're building up some, returns pallets, do a QC. And some clients do a QC process and then inject into the correct category, because some clients can't put it back into regular stock, but they might put it into a liquidation SKU, right? A lot more now are looking at it, well, hold on, this is costing me 3 to 5 to 7 to 8x of what the order processing was. It's over either. So is it better just to have them keep it, right? Or if it comes back in, and if it's like a return to sender, it hasn't been tampered with, opened up, okay, then we can go ahead and process it. But as soon as it's touched, is it better just to dispose, right? And then like you just mentioned, you gotta be careful with the disposition on some of these, right? On disposing, is there flammable gas, flammable liquids, perfume, does it, so it could be, hazardous items, right? So it's really commodity, brand-based, product-based, then we start building a returns ecosystem per brand, right? To see what's going to work for them and us as well.
Yeah. This flew by. I knew it was going to. I got one final. This is more kind of like looking into the future a little bit here. Do you think the retail footprint in this country is going to continue to go down as the rise of just like that individual order that you're talking about, right? Like the allure of going to a store isn't there anymore compared to like what it was when I was younger. Do you think that that's going to continue, or do you think we're going to reach a point where we're like, no, I want to go to the store, I want to be around other people? And do you see a resurgence of retail potentially happening?
It's I hear a lot like, okay, everything's a lot, it's going to transition a lot more into, going virtually and buying it and having predictive fulfillment and sales right through your smart applications. But from what I see, I still see the, in terms of just the purchase orders coming in. There's a little bit of, things that changed during, tariffs, the adjustments in tariffs and obviously COVID, but, it went back and stabilized, and POs are still flowing in for a lot of our different brands and scaling in the retail space. Now to more, to answer your question directly, do I think in the future. I really honestly don't have the answer there. I don't see, I still see that that's still being a big part of it. Now, do I see the option? You see a lot more where, you're able to purchase and pick up at the store if it's close by. All these retailers also have their .coms, right? Their marketplaces virtually. But in some commodities, people still want to go ahead, physically feel it, touch it, try it on, look at it and make the purchase. Whereas I guess it's just kind of a wait and see to see, 5 years down, I could be completely wrong, and it's but we don't. Not too sure there, but it's still a big part of consumers purchasing and going to the retail store is still very important.
No, I love it. Leo, thank you so much for your time. How does anybody reach out to you guys to find out more if they're looking to have some help in their supply chain?
Yeah, look, I have go directly to our website. We have RFQ pages, contact us pages. Go directly there. We get back pretty quickly, usually within 24, 48 hours there. We find us on our socials for River Plate Inc. So those are usually the best ways. Of course, the company LinkedIn as well.
Perfect. Leo, thank you so much for your time. If you guys can't find River Plate out there, hit me up. I will gladly put you guys in direct contact with them. But that's going to be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. As always, if you got value in what you heard and you're not subscribed, subscribe to the show, you guys. And if you're feeling ambitious, rank that show on iTunes and Spotify, because if you see value, your network's going to see it as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. And we'll be talking to you soon.
Came back with a bang, window down, yelling out money, anything. Hey, ooh, got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when I'm getting to the bag.